The slap echoed across the dining hall so loudly that every servant lowered their head, except Clara. It happened at exactly 9:17 a.m. under the bright morning sunlight pouring through the tall glass windows of the Sterling estate. But in the middle of that beautiful room, a marriage was breaking apart. Isabella Sterling, the billionaire's wife, stood trembling beside her chair. One hand covered her burning cheek, while the other gripped the edge of the table to keep herself from collapsing. Her heart pounded wildly in her chest. She had never been slapped before, not by strangers, not by enemies, and certainly not by her own husband. Across from her stood Daniel Sterling, one of the richest men in the city, calm, cold, and completely unashamed. His face showed no regret, no fear, no hesitation, and standing quietly beside him, wearing a neat white uniform, was the maid, Clara. She didn't speak, she didn't move, but her eyes were locked on Isabella, watching closely, almost carefully, as if she had been waiting for this exact moment to happen. Isabella's voice shook as she finally whispered, "Why would you do this to me, in front of them?" Daniel didn't answer immediately. He slowly reached for a glass of water on the table, took a calm sip, then placed it back down with deliberate control. The silence in the room felt heavier than the slap itself. Then he spoke, coldly, clearly, without emotion. "Because you forgot your place." The words landed harder than the blow. And in that single moment, under the bright morning sun, Isabella realized something terrifying. Her husband no longer saw her as his wife. He saw her as a problem, and the maid standing beside him was about to take her place. Hello friends, welcome to our story. Before we begin, please like this video and subscribe. Also, tell us in the comments, where are you watching from today? New York, London, maybe South Africa, or anywhere in the world? We'd love to know. Just 1 year earlier, Isabella Sterling had been the most admired woman in high society. She was elegant, intelligent, and respected. Married to billionaire entrepreneur Daniel Sterling, she lived in a mansion that appeared in magazines and television shows. Their wedding had been called the union of power and beauty. Cameras flashed, celebrities attended, business leaders congratulated them. To the outside world, their life looked flawless, but perfection is often an illusion. Behind the massive gates of the Sterling estate, the marriage had slowly begun to crack. It started with distance. Daniel stopped sharing his thoughts. He worked longer hours. He canceled dinners. He ignored her calls. At first, Isabella blamed stress. Running a billion-dollar company was not easy. She told herself to be patient, supportive, and understanding, but patience slowly turned into loneliness. Loneliness turned into suspicion, and suspicion soon turned into fear, because something inside that mansion had changed. 6 months after their wedding, a new maid joined the household. Her name was Clara Morgan. She was younger than most of the staff, quiet, polite, and unusually confident. Her beauty was subtle but striking. Her movements were graceful. Her voice was soft and respectful. At first, Isabella welcomed her warmly. She believed in kindness. She trusted people easily. She treated her staff with dignity. That trust would later become her biggest mistake. Daniel noticed Clara almost immediately. Not just her appearance, but her obedience, her silence, and her willingness to listen without questioning. Slowly, Clara began spending more time around him. She delivered his meals personally. She handled private errands. She stayed late in the house when other staff had gone home. At first, Isabella didn't think much of it, but the servants did. They whispered quietly in the kitchen. They exchanged nervous glances in the hallways. They avoided eye contact whenever Isabella asked simple questions. Everyone sensed something unusual, but no one dared to speak, because Daniel Sterling was not just a wealthy man. He was powerful, and powerful men rarely get questioned. 2 weeks before the slap, Isabella received an anonymous message on her phone. No name, no number, just a single sentence. "Watch the maid closely." Her heart skipped. She stared at the message for a long time, unsure what to think. Was it a joke? A threat? A warning? She tried asking Daniel about it. He dismissed her immediately. "You're overthinking again," he said coldly. "Focus on your own responsibilities." But the message stayed in her mind. And then, strange things began to happen. Clara started dressing differently, more elegant, more confident. Daniel became more protective of her. Private meetings increased. Arguments between husband and wife became more frequent. The tension inside the mansion grew heavier every day, like a storm building in the distance. 3 days before the slap, Isabella returned home earlier than expected from a charity meeting. The mansion was unusually quiet. Sunlight filled the hallways. The house smelled of fresh polish and expensive perfume. As she walked toward Daniel's private office, she heard laughter, soft, comfortable, intimate. Her heart began to race. Slowly, she pushed the door open and froze. Inside the office stood Daniel and Clara, close, too close. Clara was not wearing her maid uniform. She was wearing one of Isabella's designer dresses. Daniel's hand rested gently on her shoulder. Neither of them looked surprised. Neither of them moved. For a long, silent moment, the three of them simply stared at each other. Then, suddenly, Isabella stepped forward. Her eyes burned with rage. She raised her hand to slap Clara, but before her hand could land, Daniel grabbed her wrist, hard. The room went still. Then Daniel spoke, calmly, confidently, without shame. "She understands me better than you ever did." The words cut deep, but what hurt even more was the look on Clara's face. Not guilt, not fear, but quiet satisfaction. Back in the dining hall, the servants slowly lowered their heads, pretending not to watch. Isabella stood frozen. Her cheek still burned from the slap. Her chest felt tight. Her world felt like it was collapsing. But then something unexpected happened. Instead of crying, instead of shouting, instead of running away, Isabella straightened her back. Her breathing slowed. Her eyes hardened. She looked directly at Clara, calm, steady, and terrifyingly composed. Then she spoke in a low voice that carried across the silent room. "You think you've won." The maid's smile flickered slightly, but Isabella continued, slowly, confidently, with a strange new strength in her tone. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life." Daniel frowned. The servants exchanged nervous glances, and Clara's expression changed for the first time, not to fear, but to uncertainty. Because in that exact moment, Isabella Sterling made a silent decision. She would not leave the mansion, she would not surrender her marriage, and she would not let the maid take her place. Instead, she would fight back. To be continued.